All right, we're on. I guess that means we're live right now. So, look, we've had a couple of technical difficulties to start the show. Lucas has been fired once again
But
before
yeah,
we even.
okay.
Oh, there he is. Okay, so look, we won't spoil it. I know you can probably see him and you can probably hear him, but we're going to get to him
Hopefully.
eventually. So, first of all, you know Lucas is here because things are fucked up. Second of all, Prof, are you into cats or dogs?
Definitely dogs.
All right, and Striker, under the feeling of your toes, you know this is barefoot. Do you prefer like a hardwood or a nice, recently cleaned carpet?
Hardwood.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, all right.
You would go for that
All
option,
right.
would you?
Well, it makes sense. But we're back again with HLTV Confirmed. And look, we've already spoiled it. Plus, of course, we spoil it. We announce it in the news, so you can't tune in to watch. We've got NBK here. Nathan, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing very fine. How are you, everyone?
I hope everyone's alive. It's Friday, and it's the eve before the travel towards Katowice begins. One of the bigger tournaments we have going on here. You've been
Yep.
ever so kind to give us your time here this evening, and we're probably just going to talk through, I guess, a bunch of things about rebooting if with OG. So version 2.0 for you in just as many years. I kind of wanted to start with a real wide question here. Now, Nathan, I ask a lot of players a lot of questions, and I realize that I don't ask a detailed enough question to get the answer I'm looking for. So I'm going to try real hard right now. So you've been playing Counter-Strike forever, right? Back in the day when you'd make a team, you just get a bunch of like-minded guys together. Obviously, Game's different situation. But back then, when we were playing hardcore Counter-Strike, it was you get in the server, you run through all the names of all the places, you come up with your default strategies, you work out who wants to play where, you work out what strategies you want to have, you name all them all, and then you fucking go out there and you play your Counter-Strike and you work on your communication, your spacing, all that kind of stuff as you go. But that's kind of the base level where you start. When you're doing it now, in 2019 and 2018 and all those bits and pieces, when you're starting a Counter-Strike fresh, is it the same thing or things change now? Oh no.
I think no, I'm here.
I thought I stumped you. I was like, fuck no. I went too detailed.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I mean that like killed my brain at that point. I was not ready for such depth at the very beginning. I think what's very important is to think of it as a ladder. It's always the image I have in mind. But when you start from nowhere, you have to start from the basics. So position names, who plays where, who is fitting what, how you want to approach things in general. What are the areas of the map you want to work on? What are the basic ideas of a map control? I mean, all those very, very basic things. And then communication, obviously the basic communications. And while you're putting all those basics together, I think it's important to just play a little bit and then let chaos happen. See how everyone is reacting to one another. Do we have the right persons working together? For example, if we had two persons talking a lot at the same time and we didn't know that before, then we would separate those persons, right? So you do all of that, and I think because of the fact that I come from very games and we had all of that, all of those ideas and that way of building things, so like from basics to like more advanced stuff, then to me it's very clear that we have to start with everything that is very simple and then build on top of that. So adding on more strats, adding on more depth to how we play control, map control, mid rounds, setups, how to adapt and all of that. So I think that is just the right way to approach a team in Counter-Strike, right? You have to, how do you say that in English? You have to learn to walk before running, something like this.
Yeah.
And especially coming from like 5 different backgrounds with different teams, we have to start from somewhere, and that somewhere has to be very basic, and then let some creativity come from all the players, and then build upon that to make something better. And so I think that's kind of the plan that we're trying to achieve with this roster. Like right now, we like worked a lot on the basics, so communication, having the right positions for the right people, and then now we're starting to add more to it, and then small changes, small details, and being more comfortable into adapting.
Okay, so like you've done this now, you did it obviously with Vitality, and now you're doing it with OG.
Yeah.
How long do you think it takes from like when you get these rosters together to they're like at a position where they can compete at a decent level? Is this something that like you think is different per team, or as you say, oh, you know, most teams should be up to scratch? You can tell within a month or whatever. Like, is there a time frame?
I think it just depends on one thing in terms of time frame, is whether you have the 5 players coming like just building a team from nowhere, or if you have already a core of, let's say, 3 players and then add 2 more to it. Then if you have the 3 players initially plus 2 that you add, then I guess in like a month and a half, you can get up to pace and then be good. However, if you build from 0, then I would say that right now, for example, where we are as a team, that we start being really competitive because we start to have those things clicking together. We're not there yet in terms of depth. So like the results that we had at Blast, if we had another Blast in a week, then maybe we would not be able to redo the same things because we might not have that exact depth of taking the same teams over and over again because we don't have this ability to adapt to every situation so far. And so I think that's the main difference, right? We can play our A game and take down good teams like we did against EG and closely against G2. But time will give us opportunities to do those same results over and over again. So right now we can do great things, of course, but we can also just fall flat and do nothing. So it's just a matter of climb the ladder pretty much in terms of our own game, just like start with the basics and then get better and better.
Okay. So obviously, like this OG roster now, you were just talking about it had the good results over there at Blast. Before that, you were at Ice Challenge, but you guys have actually been together for a decent period of time now as a team, right? You just obviously, in terms of your opportunities, they're few and far between at this point. Did you expect, like when you go into the tournament of Blast, did you guys expect that you could compete with the bigger names there, or did you think that it was going to be a tough one like you had at Ice?
Yeah, I think coming into Blast, we were pretty confident in the sense that we had a week bootcamp before that since we got knocked out of Ice very early, which was, in my opinion, very disappointing to lose against Mad Lions and not making to at least semifinals. But that week was very interesting in the sense that we've had, I think, 3 big talks in like the sense of it was more important to do those talks than to just practice. For example, like having those 2 hours talk would be much more important than actually practicing because those talks kind of straighten things out for all of us. So I think the first talk was around Valde and how he was fitting in the general space of the team and so how to make things better for him. So we had like deep talks with each and every player. And then he instantly became much better, more involved, and like he was last weekend, I think he was close to perfect. A second talk was more with around Isa and me, where we just had an argument and then we just had a discussion off of it, and then it changed and like we talked about things in terms of more how to structure the team in terms of leadership, which when I can have impact into the game and when I can talk and like call for my bomb sites, you know, especially on CT sides and stuff like that. And so then we fixed that. And then I think there was a third one that was a bit less important. But regardless, what we need at that point is not practice as per se as to going on the server because we can all do things properly. We can all headshot, we can all think, we can all adapt, we can all do that individually to a certain degree. But what we need is like to be on the same level, especially as an international team. So to know where's the freedom of everybody of doing things, moving around, and then taking liberties when needed. And so that's why coming into Blast, we knew that we can be good because the results in practice have been good. We know the individuals here, and so the matter is just to let everyone be creative once we arrive on the server and be good. And that was the main aim coming into Blast, and I think we did it quite well.
Tell me, just joining an international team was obviously everyone knows that communication is going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult to incorporate different players from different regions, different in-game leaders they played for before. But was it how did it measure up with what you expected it to be? Like the difficulty of actually getting these people on the same page. Was it tougher or like easier than you thought it was going to be?
So I think just to speak first about communication in game, I think it's very much overrated in the sense that it's easy to speak and understand Counter-Strike. If you have half of your brain working, I think you can figure out pretty much what's happening, and then you have like 90% or 95% of it, right? What's hard is the communication, especially from Aleksib to us, in terms of explaining his ideas and for us to apply them exactly the way he wants to. So for example, I'm going to do a stupid example. Like if he says, do a contact here in this position, then we have to contact here, like do the exact thing. We have to know that it means you just walk in and then when you have contact, you just rush, right? So all of those small principles that you're supposed to have within your national teams, through the background that you have, you know, you don't even think about them. It's pretty logical to you. But once you arrive in its international team, you have to create all of situations and make sure that everyone is on the same page to it. Because if you have two different names for one position, it fucking doesn't matter. Like, you can just, you know, you understand it, whatever. But when it comes down to that part of communication, it's been very rough for the first month and a half. And I think coming now at this tournament, and that's where I'm really annoying everyone, and especially Aleksib with that, but simplicity is the key to international rosters. Like, if you can make it that everyone understands in a very simple manner what each other wants, then you're going to have players that will perform, that will understand everything that's happening. You don't have to think anymore about, oh, what does he want? What does he mean? It's just like, okay, I understand, headshot. And and at the end of the day, it's really the big thing that I'm going hard on right now. And we're getting much better at it. And in terms of expectation, it's hard to say. I didn't really think too much of it before. But to me, it's just a normal process that every team has to go through, but especially international teams. So I'm happy with the progress we've shown. I think we're on the right path for sure. Again, like, it's just polishing everything now, because I think we have the rough basics now after those 2 months. And to me, like, as long as we found the path, it's everything that matters. So we have the path, we just have to move on now.
There's a big thing you just said there, which is basically talking about the theory side of Counter-Strike, right? Because, like, the knowing what he means when he says contact play, for example, everyone's definition of, like, we don't have set definitions for a lot of these things, first of all, so everyone's understanding of those terms is different in itself. But, like, at what level, like, what is the weirdest thing that, you don't have to give me what the detail is, but just an example of it, like, the weirdest thing that you guys have, like, an understanding for as a team? Because we all know what a set execute is. Everyone knows, like, about spacing and stuff. Is there anything that's super weird that you guys have, like, a rule for?
Let me think. I mean, I think the one thing we're lacking right now at some point is just pressing W. I don't know if it's really a rule that we can implement or something, but sometimes, you know, you just have, like, to punch them in the face, right? You just have to take the side, take space, and then just win the round based off of that. And so right now we still like to shoulder peek and do things like that. So, like, we have situations where Aleksib or me just, like, run through a bomb site, like, completely alone, and then people are just still waiting behind. So there is this side, and then there is the side of also we finally found how we want to approach games when we arrive in official games. And I think our motto right now would be something like, okay, guys, let's fuck. And by that, it would just be like, you know, let's have fun, let's be straightforward, and then let's just, you know, let's just play and have fun, you know, and do things properly. And so I think that would be a thing now that we have to remember, is just, for us, we have players that really enjoy having a good atmosphere in the team. And I think if you link just being serious enough to do everything that Aleksib is saying, what a teammate is saying, or whatever, and having fun and headshotting, then, you know, that's how we as a team are going to perform the best. So there is no specific thing, like, it's just adding up small things along the way, and then finding again, like, the big path we want to go on, and then just practice that shit over and over again.
Okay.
Can I just ask about this whole in-game leadership thing that keeps switching? Obviously, this has been the case with teams that you've been a part of for a long time. It goes back to, like, NV or even before that. Where just every now and again you just take over on one of those sides. Lately it's just been the CT sides, but obviously it happened again in OG. So is it just because you feel like the responsibilities should be shouldered by multiple people, or do you feel like you can do it better than the other guy, or how does that work?
Right. I think there is several parts to it. On a theory standpoint, that's what I always have in the back of my mind, and that's why I think about it. To me, in a pure theory point, it is probably the best way to approach Counter-Strike period as a whole. And, like, that's, I guess there's obviously some sort of controversy in there because it has not been made by many teams or anything like that before. But so how I approach it is that if you have one guy that is one in-game leader and that is taking care of TNT sites, like, everybody obviously has, like, dozens of strats and dozens of defenses and all of that, right? So if you want to prepare against another team and have everything in mind, then it's going to become pretty complicated to remember everything that you have to enter strat for, even if you have a coach, even if you have notes, even if you have all of that, right? in terms of also creating the game and all the game plans, it's hard to like focus on every aspect of Counter-Strike, of everything everywhere that is possible. So to me, in theory, if you have a team that trusts each other on the same level, that you have figures in the team of someone you want to follow more or whatnot because of a human level, then it would be better to have two separate persons focusing on T and CT side specifically, so that they can have 100% focus on each side, but those two persons have to be comfortable with it. The whole team has to be comfortable with it. And so there are like a lot of ifs, in that equation.
So is that the problem that you've kind of run into in those, like, all those iterations of the French rosters, and now with EG, that people are just not comfortable with it?
Yeah, for the most part, yes. It was just a matter of comfort and being used to that and having the comfort of it, because it's obviously a completely different system, right? And some people
I think we can also just like take this, what you just explained here. You can just copy paste it into romantic relationships. In theory, having like one person that you're super friendly with and you can like get on as a personal level, and then another, maybe with that person it's super good on that level, but maybe another level doesn't work, and then ideally you'd want to share like the other part of your person with another person. But that is only in theory, because no one
I'm loving this.
In theory,
most of the people are not comfortable with it, as NBK just said. So finding that balance there is pretty difficult.
Yeah, my relationships, I just pay for everything. It makes life a bit easier, right? So maybe that's the play, Nathan. You just
maybe you have to pay people.
Yeah, that's the way shit gets done. There's a big, obviously, talking point over those first blast weeks, because we had the good teams who weren't performing up to their level. Now the only thing that you can really cite is poor practice for some of them, but then some of them, like Astralis, are apparently owning in practice. What is your take on all this? Do you think it's just down to those factors?
I think after some time of not playing official games, like in both December and January, and taking a long break, it's hard to really get into it, especially when you have like teams that are like super hungry coming in. By that I mean teams like Complexity, obviously, us, I think we're part of it. Just teams that, Blast is probably like one of their biggest chances to prove that you can beat top teams. You have a good place to do it. And the top teams are facing those lower tier teams with less information as well on like how they approach the game and all of that. And so now in Counter-Strike, everyone in terms of headshots have a very, very high level, and everyone is sort of developed as well in terms of tactics and everything. So it's very easy to upset teams nowadays in Counter-Strike. Now to do it on several events in a row is obviously much harder, but we're at a stage where like we're going to take the ranking, but you have teams that are like top 30 that can easily take maps off of the top 10 teams, top 8 teams, like completely, you can see that it's really simple. So I think those two things combined are the main things, and that's why I'm also looking forward, I guess, of seeing Fnatic and how they're going to fare after taking like what it feels like 10 months of off time to just get into the tournament.
It's a very long break, isn't it? That's pretty ridiculous right there. It's gonna, like you said, it's gonna be curious to see if they come out and they can still perform at a good level, because it'll kind of debunk the conversation with all those other teams that we saw previously. So obviously with you in the rest of the year, what's on the agenda for OG in the rest of at least the next couple of months?
The minor, obviously, like the minor qualifier, first thing. I mean, that's the main objective, obviously, because once you're in the whole circle, then fuck it. Like, you don't have to go through the open qualifiers, close qualifiers. Like, fuck this shit. So that's the main objective. I want to make through all the steps and see how that goes. The ESL Pro League thing, whatever it's called,
Pro Tour.
Exactly.
And the ESL Pro League, all those good buzzwords and names and titles, plenty of them going around.
That thing that's happening later in March, and then I think we don't have a million things planned, to be honest. Blast is going to be again one of the main chances for us to like make a I don't know the expressions in fucking English. This is disappointing, but just to come in and then show that we're here again, like get spots and all that kind of stuff. Cologne is going to be a big one. We need to qualify there again because like we just want to be at all the premium events. I think it's pretty simple, just like every teams. And the good thing is those events are much more precise in time. So like you know more or less when to peak and when you have to practice and be good for. And so it helps for us at least as a growing team to like really focus on some things and bring our best level there. It's very important for us.
Okay, so the big goal is obviously qualifying for that major, and then obviously the title ones there. So Aleksib did an interview at Blast where he was saying some positive things about Seb, but as usual, like not enough time to go in depth there. Does he have transferable knowledge? Is there much that he can offer? You know, obviously for those who aren't aware, Seb, OG, Dota team, TI, back to back with those bad boys, kind of a big deal. He's now kind of assisting with the team, right? He was at the Blast the entire time. What kind of stuff can he actually offer up for you guys?
I think there are two things. First, he wants to help us on. I mean, the bottom line is he wants our team to be the best possible. So I think that's the first thing that has to be said. That is pretty obvious, but just
and he's got skin in the game.
Like he just he has the Dota team that he's obviously very familiar with, that he wants to be the best in the world, and he has our team that he wants to be the best as well. But it's like two different paths, not under one same roof. It's like two independent things. Now in terms of what he brings, so first off, I think he's a very likable person, so it's very easy for players and persons in general to speak with him, and so people really listen to what he has to say almost constantly because the way he speaks and all of that. To make it even better, he's also very knowledgeable about how a team works and how to perform, period, regardless of the game, regardless of anything. And so then what he actually brought us is just some tools or some elements for us as a group to speak more, to open up more to one another, and then we will find a solution ourselves to our problems. But what he gives to us, I'm not obviously not going to say all the things that he brought to us, but
the juicy info.
Yeah, I'll keep that for me and for OG. But it's very simple, but it's very efficient. And so by giving us those things, it's sort of an outlet for each player to speak their mind, and people are obliged to speak their mind pretty much, to just say something. And so it forces everyone to just speak together and like create interaction and then create something within the group, you know, that just radiates from the group in general. Like I think you could see on cameras, maybe even in the comms at Blast, for example, we're a very united group of people that just liked each other, that wanted to speak with one another, and we're just, you know, when we're walking, chilling, it was just like a group that is living well in a sense. And so that's pretty much the general thing he wants us to incorporate into our group, because it was their big reason for success in Dota, where the group could go through anything and then still come out better in the end. And so since we're an international newly formed team and all of that, blah, 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 those things are insanely important for us to progress constantly and not be stuck to a certain level or stuck to certain ideas, or have one player that is lagging behind because he has something in mind or this or that, right? So that's the main thing he's doing for us. And then he's been here at Blast to talk with us, and like, I don't really want to say motivate us or something like this, but he was just trying to find the right words to put us back into it. And then nothing really matters, just play the best of your abilities and then we're going to win. That's it.
So not as simple as Ence's mantra of making sure they have fun, but yeah, some good information there from all.
I mean, OG have been saying that they need to have fun a lot. Like it feels like a meme and almost like memeing on Ence, but I don't think it is. I think they're just like, you honestly think you also need to have fun, but it's funny because of all of the history and what Ence said.
Yeah, for sure. I'm thinking about this a lot, and I think to me, I have fun when I crush the team in front of me. So that's my definition of fun.
Winning is fun.
So yeah, exactly. Winning and doing things properly is fun. Like playing to the best of your abilities, you know. And even if you lose behind, it's like, yeah, okay, at least we get everything. It was fun, you know. It was cool. But if you don't even do that, then how are you expected to have fun when you're just competing and you want to win. So to me, winning and competing the best we can is my definition of fun. That's how I see it. It's not like fun, like, yeah, high five, we're best teammates, and then we're sending memes to one another.
Losing 61.
Yeah, exactly. Like that, like that's not fun regardless. Like we want to have fun by doing things properly.
I've got some fun for us, boys. We're going to keep the show moving. Lucas, we're going to move it into the recent news, would you, mate? All right, we're back already, and we'll be getting into, as per usual, the current affairs, the bits and bobs that have been happening across the Counter-Strike landscape.
Not much.
Well, yeah, it's been pretty quiet. It hasn't. We've been having shots across the bow. You know, there's been some flare-ups on the social medias, but nothing too crazy, nothing that we can't contain. But we do have some news, and the first one is hot off the presses from ESL, and it's to do with the crowd cheating measures. So what we're talking about here is obviously to do with the crowds influencing the outcome of matches. ESL have made it quite clear that they're not doing booths. We had a whole show that I was sick for with Config on about booths. We're not going to have any more conversation about the booth. But what we can have a conversation is we can talk about what these measures are. So Striker or Prof, did you write this article?
Well, basically, I mean, I didn't write it, but I read it. I have a pretty good understanding of what it's supposed to be. Well, basically what they want to do, it's not like they just want to have like PSAs before games and like before arena days to tell people that they shouldn't react on things like when people are jiggling their crosshair in a wall and stuff like that. Like basically they shouldn't like make noise when there are like some information plays being made, you know.
Behavior.
Yeah, exactly. The problem is, if I can start, problem with that is a lot of the time it's a completely involuntary response. And the thing is, like, obviously, as a whole, it sounds like a massive boom of noise, but individually, it's just like 15,000 people going, oh, wait, you know? And they don't even have to make too much noise individually for it to just boom across the arena. So I feel like for ESL to kind of try to suppress emotion like that in an audience is not going to work.
I think that's pretty, like, okay. I understand that the vibe behind our arena events is it's very, like, hype and that kind of stuff, and that's even in the vein that our casting's done, right? But I think that if, like, there's clear differences in certain situations of if it's a home team and if we don't have any home teams playing, right? When we don't have any home teams playing and that kind of noise gets made, there's no emotion attached to it, so it's not swayed in one direction or another. If you have two teams who are like relatively impartial, there's always going to be some favor.
Oh, by emotion, I mean like surprise and whatever.
No,
like
I know
reaction,
what you mean. I know what you mean. But what I'm saying here is when you have a home match, your surprise reaction to a team you care about compared to a team you want to lose, your surprise reaction are two completely different things. When your surprise reaction to just an amazing game of Counter-Strike is happening, it doesn't sway the player because they don't know who the crowd's going for. So that reaction in certain situations, like, it can be tailored, right? You know what I mean?
But then it's not. It's only like pertains to home teams and stuff like that, which honestly doesn't happen often, right? You don't have
very rare
like home teams playing on the stage all the time. Like it doesn't happen very much outside of maybe the US, where you know you're pretty likely to have Liquid or EG playing on stage. I guess that's where it's going to be the most noticeable. But overall, like if this is what ESL planned to kind of counter, it's just the biggest minority of all the situations that affect a game, and the rest of it is just, as I said, like the emotional stuff.
It is aimed to like counter the worst situations, like where people are intentionally yelling, and that happens at events as well. People are intentionally yelling when someone is like coming behind a certain player or something like that. Like those things should not be happening because the whole thing is about just like educating people to not fuck up games. So I don't know. I feel like it will help in the worst cases. Those will be kind of suppressed down. But I'd say like no one is saying this will just cancel out any reactions or anyone ever getting some information off the crowd. Like I don't. But at the same time, like if the crowd isn't supposed to react when a player is like shaking his crosshair at the wall, then I guess players shouldn't be doing that either. Like they are literally inviting this reaction to find out at certain times, and no one is saying anything against that. But if the crowd is to be punished for like reacting to it, we should also tell players to not do that stuff, because like in the game it doesn't serve any purpose to aim at a wall and just like shake your aim. That doesn't make any sense.
No, and this is where it's kind of like a two-pronged thing, right? Because my suggestion after all this stuff happened in the Pro League finals was to just have less X-ray or even no X-ray, like if I had it my way in the arena, right? Because I actually think that we've dumbed down Counter-Strike for a viewer perspective, because if you don't play CS all the time, you forget how good these guys actually are. When a guy like Jiggle peeks a corner and like shoots one bullet coming out and gets that kill, and like we can only see that sliver of the guy through the crack because of X-ray, right? Yeah. That doesn't actually show how good these players' skills are. So I think like we've actually dumbed down the viewing experience of. I'm not saying we remove it completely. Like that's obviously me being over the top, but that's why if you tie the removing of X-ray, so if there's a player sitting there behind a wall and he's shaking his thing and we don't have X-ray on, well then the viewer just thinks he's an idiot, because the majority of the viewers can't locate where the radar is. This isn't the hardcore viewers we have here watching this podcast, right? The hardcore viewers we have here in this podcast live and breathe Counter-Strike. They wouldn't be here otherwise. But I think that for a general viewer. And, you know, you got fucking Simon goes, and Simon's been a Counter-Strike fan since 1.5, and he brings his mates Benny and fucking Jerry, and they really don't know a lot about Counter-Strike, but they played it a few times, and they played a few matchmaking games, and they know like when what a clutch is, and they're going to react like idiots, whereas one guy's going to be a bit more educated in that kind of environment, right? So, Nathan, as far as from a player's perspective, are you okay with the fact that we are doing an event in an arena and there will potentially be, contamination via the audience in some plays?
Fuck yeah.
Oh,
okay. Wow. All right. Well, sorry to everybody at home whose ears we just lost.
Sorry, I just did it on purpose. Just
it's
to really...
Right. It's all good. We're with you. We're awake now.
There are... To me, there are several parts. First off, the anti-cheating, yeah, I think I agree. It's just for the most extreme cases of people screaming or like holding signs like they're A, or like they're B. Like, I mean, I haven't seen it, but I'm sure like some people fucking did it, which is fucking retarded. But so to me, it's just to really do that. But then there is so many ways that you can cheat, and by cheat I mean take information you shouldn't have. If you were playing at home with like nothing, with not hearing anything and all of that, that you cannot negate all of them. And playing Counter-Strike, and I think it's something that Carmack understands well. To me, when you're playing on those big stage, I don't want to be behind like a glass and then cannot feel the reaction of the crowd and cannot see what happened if you like clutch a big round. You know, you want to live the moment. Those are the moments you remember. That's why for us, ES1 Cologne 2015, fucking ages ago, is still and will forever be one of our best memories, because we were sitting at a timeout, and I will always remember that. In the semifinal, it was a timeout, and we heard like the French pod and the French crowd were like singing the anthem of our country, so we could hear that through our headsets and everything. So to me, it is extremely important to keep that interaction going, and not to remove all of that, because if you remove all of this, sure, you're gonna maybe remove like 5% or like 10% of the things that are gonna happen. But when you throw a nade on the face of someone or in the general area on the map, and then you hear like a giant boom in your arena, then you know that your nade hit, and you most likely hit someone for like 50, and you know they're in this area. So if you throw a flash and then you see everyone being wide in the crowd, you know, you would see it regardless of whether you being in the booth or not. So to me, this is the best way to approach it. And this is a stage game. I mean, this is the way it's gonna be, and I don't see you removing everything. Like,
I'm just going to get the observers to start following like dummy grenades now. When they see a grenade, this guy's not going to land, I'll just get them to follow it. We'll just get them to do it. Throw you guys off a bit. Keep you on your toes down there.
These mollies. I mean, you have so many things. Like, I mean, I mean, you don't even do it on purpose, but it is the way it is. Is that like everyone is on the same level, so you just have to do it.
Yeah, I think this is like the argument that I hear from people wanting it to be in booths and stuff. I feel that the biggest feedback that they get from these arena events is player interaction, which is the signing sessions, which would mean by locking them up in booths and making them harder to see and more closed off while the games are live would actually be going against the implication of what the people are there to see, right? They want to have more interaction with players. So visually, you want to see that. I was just talking with Henry earlier, and it's like the things which we remember from back in the day, like actually getting to stand behind people, right? And getting to what people don't get that experience anymore. We take that for granted. That's what we were doing years ago when we were on the come up, right? When the game wasn't like this. You physically stand behind the people and you learn. So we're so far away from that now. Obviously, we're not going back to that in any means. Anyone else got anything on this topic here, or we're going to keep it moving?
I think we can keep moving.
All right. So complexity and GamerLegion fail the minor qualifier. We may as well fucking just throw that one out there. It just begs the question of everything that we know about video games, doesn't it? But I watched that one. I watched that complexity game, and they lost to like Bubble and Grux. Disco Doppler was in there. Fates. Yeah, I'm missing a name, but they weren't fucking around. Let me tell you that much. They were there to play a game of Counter-Strike. And look, obviously, I think this shows how cutthroat Counter-Strike at that kind of level is. And a lot of people are going to throw online CS out there. We'll see that fill up the Twitch feed as we go. But unfortunately, guys, we have to draw the line somewhere. Not every single phase of every single qualifier for every single tournament that we have in Counter-Strike can have a LAN part. There have to be online parts. They're just that's the way it has to go. We physically don't have enough days. So I think the complexity lost there in that game because it meant so much to them. Obviously, what for them that would have been like heartbreak. Whereas for the other guys, they don't have the same organizational pressure behind them. The GamerLegion one, are we super surprised there?
Not particularly, to be honest.
Not that much, but still, it's like the only team, I guess, which
they already got 3 Swedish teams in the minor closed qualifier now, so that's all right. They don't need it. They didn't need a fourth.
3?
Dignitas, NIP, and Fnatic, my friend.
I forgot about Dignitas existing.
I mean, whatever.
It's a lot of
and they got an easy, but yeah, they both lost to Smash from actually they didn't. GamerLegion lost to some other team, but
didn't they lose like super early too or something?
Yeah, but like Smash didn't do anything.
Also touch on how Virtus Pro or ex-Virtus Pro, Snacks and company just all forgot to check in?
Well, apparently Snacks has got some conditions. That's why he slept in.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I'm saying like that they forgot to check in for the last.
No, but the sleeping thing was a different.
It was a different thing.
It was the next day.
Different qualifier.
Yeah. The first the minor they forgot, and then the next day he slept into because of apparently some like health issues and stuff like that. So
I think just in general with complexity, I think it was really rough for them because they were also like boot camping for like 3-4 weeks in a row, and like you can love the game as much as possible, you can love the team as much as possible. When you leave for so many weeks in a row in a hotel and the only thing you do is play Counter-Strike, it's gonna get on your mind a little bit. So I think it didn't display their best level by far, for sure, and that it didn't help as well that the objectives for them were probably not really defined, in the sense that one of the big objectives for them was Blast, obviously moving forward, all the big teams. So like fuck it, we're just going in and then we'll see what happens. We headshot hard. Well, when you have pressure into making it to qualify through a qualifier like this that is very long, like if we had to go through this, I'm not certain we would have went through the open qualifier because of how hard it is. And like, it's the same idea of what happened at Blast, right? Hungry teams, like it's their one chance to perform. So like they do everything for this one tournament and to qualify for it. While the other teams are like, yeah, we still have Blast, we still have this, we still have that. So in the back of your mind, you don't have the same 100% focus and hunger because they played the first qualifier, then they went into Blast, and then they went into the fourth. It's like, fuck, it's like mentally draining to switch back and forth constantly. So
I think that's a good angle to take.
For them.
Yeah, like, did they actually make a mistake in their approach to this? Obviously, they even said that they like hit Vertigo so they could play it against Astralis. So their preparation for Blast was more important, or their result at Blast was more important than the minor for them. And then obviously, even like you guys, you kind of made the team about their team is actually older than yours. But you went and played the Summit event and then got ranked and then got invited to the closed qualifier. Yep. And they didn't do that. They did play some online stuff. I think they didn't qualify for
some qualifiers
events,
for Katowice and stuff like that. Yeah,
exactly. but they missed that opportunity, which you did, and which saved you going to the open qualifier in the end. So it seems like those two things combined, like there maybe should have been a different approach from complexity there. So, but at the same time, is it more worthy to be in the closed qualifier for the minor or to be at the blast finals? So exactly. It's very hard to say.
It's where it's really hard to draw the line, and then I think it was very doable for them to do both, but it's just it was pretty, like they lost on the last map of the best of 3, I think 16-14 or something. You know, they were that close, right, to actually making it. So it's not like they did a lot of things wrong. Like the only thing you could say that was wrong, if they had the invite for Summit and they refused it, then fair enough. But if they didn't even have it, they had no real choice. They had to go through that no matter what. So I think it's just a poor circumstances with like all of that combined, because it was, you have to go on one hand through an open qualifier, on the other hand you play blast against the best teams in the world. It's like it's a very hard thing to balance, one is like from your hotel practice room, the other is like on stage and all of that. So I think
it's obviously like it's obviously incredibly difficult to prepare for these open qualifiers, because you literally don't know who you're going to play until like 10 minutes before you actually do. So it's like impossible to put like specific preparation into these things, because there's like 100 possible teams or like 500 possible teams that you could face. So it's just impossible to prepare, to focus in any way on these things.
Yeah, but also you can see that they're really into preparation. Yeah, like the way they did it against Astralis, Navi, Vitality, all of that. They're really, really focused on preparation. It helps them a lot. So getting to the full place is like harder for them right now.
I guess the only thing that you could do potentially, like to prepare for like such a wide array of teams, is just to focus on yourself, right? Just to make sure that all of your basics are down like to the greatest detail, instead of focusing on like the likes of Astralis and stuff like that in the meantime. But obviously they're going to do that in any case. They're going to focus on their own things and their basics and stuff like that, no matter what else they do. So I feel like it's just difficult to balance this with online qualifiers.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep it going. This is another major piece of Counter-Strike news, ladies and gentlemen. I can't believe this one's on my office desk this morning.
What is happening?
Contact, which is was crazy. They're in talks with AcilioN. Where's this one come from, Prof?
This is what we are dealing with this week. Like there is nothing happening.
Hell.
So my original one was crazy signed CIS roster, and then I figured out this is actually like a bit better. Like it was a report from DK. I think it's just kind of interesting that this came up.
Dude, can I just say what Lucas just wrote in the chat? Because I feel like it deserves some attention, for better or for worse. Because he said in contact with AcilioN.
This is even poor for a prof joke.
Yeah,
honestly.
Exactly. This is not even like prof joke.
This is pathetic. This is pathetic, honestly. But no, it says in the report, it was kind of just stated that they're looking into adding him to the team instead of Letny, which is kind of weird, because Letny is the guy that has one of the guys that they need for the major spot, and then later on it was DK's report on Double Tap, right? And it later just went into like what they could do. Maybe they could use the coach thing to have a spot or something like that. But
I've heard some rumors this team's just fucked, mate. Like I've heard some rumors that they're just fucked, that they're not practicing, that they're not playing. Now I don't know if it's true.
Jesus.
I've only heard the rumors. I've heard that they signed contracts with this new company and they've all signed at like different rates, which isn't unheard of, but doesn't really have the most team vibe about it. I heard that the wheels are just fucking falling off over there on that contact camp.
I mean, it kind of honestly makes sense, considering like Emmy is a player who was just coaching, in the previous crazy roster and just became a player. So it kind of makes sense for him, like if I look at the entire roster, for him to have a slightly different rate than the rest of the players, just because you might not expect him to stay an active player the entire time. Maybe like when they have a better option, they're going to take him in. So I think like logically it just makes sense. Obviously from a team perspective, it's not going to be a great unifier.
There's also like some talk that this isn't actually like a replacement, but it's more like a stand-in thing that they need because of some visa issues. That is what has been the word on the street. And at the same time, ironically, AcilioN's Copenhagen Flames are invited to the FLASHPOINT, the global qualifier. So how does that work? It's just kind of a shit show over there. By the way, Contact is an org that doesn't even have a Twitter, did not announce that they signed these guys. It's just like crazies saying, we sold them to them, and they never said they got him. It's just like, yeah, whatever. And they have like just a very weird thing going on.
Okay, and they're meant to be in the FLASHPOINT League.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. So things going pretty good. Well, that team has Ships and Esperanto and Otto, right? So those three names are actually pretty sick fraggers, actually. Whereas it's just Letny and Emmy, right? They were the kind of remnants left over from the Nexa, and who else was there back in the day? Am I thinking of the wrong team? Yeah. So, look, there's been some changing of the guard in that area of things, but we probably won't spend too long talking about that.
Yeah,
I hope
that's it.
That doesn't offend them. Now, talk me through this one, Prof. What is this about? EPL FLASHPOINT schedule and formats. Is this now we know everything so we can compare?
Now we know the teams, we know the formats. That's all we need to know, right?
Now I don't get a vote. I'm not going to be outspoken on the war itself. I'm working on my thing, doing my thing.
I'm not going to say shit either.
See, Nathan's a corporate show like me as well. We're corporate shows. We keep our heads down.
Just the improv being the
Aren't we ESL shills? That's what people are saying in the comments.
Talk people through that.
Yeah.
I mean,
for being a ESL shill.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was pretty funny, like you being in the episode and then calling out me and Striker for being ESL shills. It's like, what is this, inverse day or whatever the fuck? I don't know.
It's not like I don't know. Was this the Carmack episode or not, or was this?
I think it was before.
Okay.
Before that.
Because like in the Carmack episode,
the thing is, we had Semler, and then normally as a part of the show, as someone that needs to get answers from a guy that's from FLASHPOINT, who is going to be presenting the FLASHPOINT side. I'm not going to be saying, yeah, everything that FLASHPOINT is doing is great, awesome, and they'll just like sit there. Obviously, you need to kind of question him, like counter his arguments to get a better discussion, get more information, and allegedly somehow that is being an ESL show. So that is always fun. Okay. But just on to this, like I don't know what to say on this. I think it was just a kind of an open thing to kind of discuss or just mention who's where and what this is going to look like. I think just one thing to say. I think one thing that I can say is that FLASHPOINT has a better format in terms of just the group stage, how it's going to be played off, because it's 2 GSL groups, so like all of the matches are pretty important, and then on the other side we have the round robin and ESL, like 6-team round robin, right? That I'm not that big of a fan of. That's the only thing I can really say about the new information we got.
At the same time, like I get it. I get it from ESL's perspective that it's like they kind of wanted to make it a league, and obviously like you want to have content for like an entire 4 weeks, 4 weeks of action. Like apparently, FLASHPOINT is going to be like a similar timeline, which I'm actually kind of surprised about. I'm curious about how that's going to be scheduled, considering the amount of matches is so much lower than with ESL, where there are obviously 24 teams and there's so much more going on there. So I'm just curious about how.
I think the difference is like, I guess it's like 2 matches per day in FLASHPOINT and 3 in ESL.
And it's probably not like all week long with FLASHPOINT either. I would
assume. That also. Yeah, ESL is like every day. Or something.
ESL is literally all week long for 3 weeks in a row. Then there's a 2-day break for them to fly over to the US, which is something that we could have probably talked about. Honestly, this kind of detail. That at least YK that kind of leaked that the ESL Pro League, the regular season was going to be in Europe, while the finals were obviously announced in Denver, right?
Yeah,
Denver. Yep.
Yeah, there we go. So and there are only 2 days between the first 2 playoffs rounds and then the actual top 6 stage that's going to be in the arena. So there's only going to be 2 days for teams to fly over to the US and to prepare for the playoffs. So. It's not obviously not.
Well, they'd only have 2 days anywhere, right? It's not like they just like have 2 days. Like they have 2 days, then they have to fly. So they would have had 2 days regardless, right? So the amount of time,
like for a normal event, if you fly in, you'd fly in 2 days earlier. That's what you're trying to say.
So you'd have the same amount of time no matter what they were doing, right? So the only thing is they have to fly. So the takeaway is they have to change time zone, but every team has to fly there.
But I think the problem
first and live in America, right?
The problem that teams would have with this is just generally you have like a way to warm up into the event, right? When you're starting an event, you're not starting from playoffs, you know, top 6. That's incredibly important. You're starting from a group stage where you can kind of like start slow within the first match and still make it back. You know, in this scenario, you just lose the first match and you're gone. Like after one best of 3, you might as well just go back to Europe, right?
Yeah, we just played for 2 weeks. Like, isn't the whole point of this shit, like, it's a different format. Like, the whole thing of this is the whole thing, the group stage, every single stage of this entire format is you win or you're out, right? Like, it's, if you don't think of the final as the only part of the event. The whole event is the whole thing.
But the problem is that there is a 24-hour travel in between, right? So that's the issue.
Yeah, I guess it's the only thing that you...
I think what Striker is trying to say, when you travel to a normal, like in the past, when you travel to an event, you'd still travel 2 days before, but you'd go into the group stage, which most of the time you're not playing your first match, like the hardest match, unless you're Tyloo or Renegades playing against Astralis Liquid every time and getting fucked, and no one cares about what their life is like. But for most of the top teams, they go in and they can lose 1 game and then go through the lower bracket and then reach the playoffs later. And this way, I guess it's like you can be jet lagged on the first day, and that first day is the elimination day, like playoffs, quarterfinals. So that is
for me. That argument equals out completely, just purely on the fact that everybody only finds out they're playing each other at the exact same times because teams hadn't qualified at that point.
I mean, everybody's in the same boat. It's just like it's not going to promote great Counter-Strike, especially in terms of preparation, as you were saying.
Well, yes and no. The only difference is you don't have time to prepare individually because you're going to have this 2 days to actually prepare. Because when you have like professional sports teams that are traveling, they're like watching. I don't remember how to say it, but they're just watching things about the other teams on the flights and on travel and all that. So
yeah, I guess that's what you're going to have to do. Yeah.
And I think like the thing is, we need to start having a big divide between the types of tournaments we have. Like this here becomes an event where you could start the event as one of the teams who are not considered in the top 10 teams. You could have a fucking sick group stage, but maybe you only come top 2, top 3. Then you have to play in that little play-in event, and then you fucking smash that and you come out in one of the first positions there. And you can like carry your momentum across within the sample size of a month. And then you might not be a good Counter-Strike team for the rest of the year, right? Maybe you make like top 8 at a tournament here or there, but like this is like a month of hardcore CS where you could snowball that. Whereas we're still going to have events like Katowice. We're going to have teams rock up to here, and they've only played like a very few handful of officials, and then they could be knocked out after 2 best of 3s. Whereas this one here, the round robin, you can warm into it. There could be whole positions changing for the 2nd or 3rd spot the whole time. I think the group stage is very cutthroat. You know, it's not like we're having all the teams qualify. It's like if you're the best team in your group, prove it, and then you get seeded straight into the semifinals. And then otherwise you're fighting with 5 teams for 2 positions. That's like, and we're only doing best of 3s. So you should be having more clean tiebreakers decided, right? If you fucking destroyed someone 2-0 compared to how it used to be done when we did round robins back in the day where it was 1 map and it was like a 16-14 victory and you got the points, or overtime we changed the point system for some stupid thing. Like this one here, it's very clean. If you win a best of 3 2-0 and your teammate didn't win a best of 3 2-0 against that same team, well, you did better against that team than what they did. I said your teammate, your opposition.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I think it's like we need to have more unique formats, because then Counter-Strike gets stale if every format or every tournament we went to was the same thing. Like, you know, if we change the format.
No, I don't mind the format at all. It's just obviously, like, sure, you can have like some reservations towards round robin. That depends on basically what your view is. If you want to have like every match mean something, obviously round robin is not going to be the thing that you want to watch, because like it's 6 teams, blah, blah, 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, whatever. It's quite a lot of matches, you know, in total that you had that are being played in that group. So obviously, like compared to GSL, I guess that's where you and I differ. I wouldn't really call that cutthroat. Obviously, still the top half teams make it through, right? Is that right? Yeah, it is, because top 3 makes either top 1 makes it to top 6, blah blah blah, stuff like that. So yeah, it's not, I don't think cutthroat is the right word for it, but I get what you mean. Obviously placing first means so much, because you just get a pass to top 6 and you can potentially even make it all the way to the top 4 just by, you know, winning 1 match afterwards. So that's obviously a big plus. So yeah, I get it from that perspective.
It's gonna be a lot of Counter-Strike. That's all.
Yeah, that's like fucking all 3 weeks in a row, all day, every day, 3 best of 3s every day. It's pretty sick.
Yeah, I think like I agree with Chad, where I also see it as a whole, where it's like sure you have like the 2 days of travel, but to me the 2 days of travel is just 2 days of travel is like 2 days off where you can prepare to a game or something. Well,
Yeah.
the whole tournament is groups and all of that. That's how I see it personally as a competitor. Like you have to make it through every step regardless. Like if you travel and then you lose first best of 3, then you know that's the way it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just that, you know, it kind of like, it reminds me of the situations where we had teams, you know, fly over like with literally 2 days or 1 day between one tournament and the other, which was New York and Malmo, I think. The latest that it happened. And this is kind of, this is somewhat similar. Obviously, you have 2 days instead of 1, but like people will see these as kind of like separate events instead of like one tournament, especially considering they're fucking like halfway across the world from each other, you know?
Yeah, I get it. I don't know if people will see it as different events. I mean,
ESL wants people to not see it as different.
Of course, they don't want to, but people will still do it.
Maybe, yeah, I couldn't say about that. Maybe you're right. I couldn't say how people will see it.
It was just because it's so far from each other and because there are 2 days in between, you know, it just feels like 2 separate tournaments.
Yeah, the different time zones especially is
that's
weird to understand at some point.
We can get talking, boys, about a tournament though, which is about to start in an hour's time. Is it an hour's time? That's why we're starting now.
Okay, that's why we're starting so early.
Oh, true.
We started early today, guys, because DreamHack Anaheim, that's going to be kicking off. And we wanted to make sure that we weren't overlapping with them, so you guys can watch the Counter-Strike and listen to us, not have to choose.
To be honest, like what we would have been over would have been Fury and Point playing against each other, so maybe we could have started at 8.
Wow. Striker.
I mean, that wouldn't last that doesn't last for 2 hours though. That's
it's like an hour and a half in the schedule. I'm not sure if they're sticking to the schedule with opens now. I forgot.
So we're going to bring up the teams now. I've just sent Lucas the link. He'll bring up the link with all the teams who are going to be there at DreamHack Anaheim. I'll read them out for the audio listeners as well. We're going to be looking at 2 different groups here for the DreamHack Open. The first place is 50k and despite the DreamHack Masters in Jönköping, which is going to be going down in June. The 2 groups are, you've got Endpoint, Force, Furia, and North, and Group B, which consists of Complexity, ENCE, Genji, and MIBR, is going to be the first official outing on land for Genji. The Endpoint roster, if that doesn't really wet your whistle too much, guys, it's a couple of UK players. We've got Thomas in there. Obviously, I think it's like Surreal in there.
Crucial.
Yep, that old
Robin.
Mighty Max, those guys, they're kicking around still, having a good old time. And then who are the other names here, which I guess obviously ENCE, I don't know if you guys have heard of them. They're for a team from Finland who likes to have fun. So let's get into the conversations here. Which team, and we'll start with you, Nathan, needs this win the most?
The most?
They need it. They need it to save themselves. They need the credibility. Otherwise, they're going into turmoil. There's a roster change. The organization's pulling the plug. You know, there's pressure on them. Who's in trouble?
A tie-up between ENCE and MIBR that really need it. I think there are teams that them winning would make a statement, and there are teams that actually need to win the tournament in order to get confidence in that rolling. Because there are some teams, if they win here, for example, Complexity, like it makes a statement like, yeah, they're strong. But if they don't win, then it's like they will still follow their path and they still have to grow and get better and like work on their things. While with MIBR, now they had a little bit of time to practice, and especially their decent showing. I think it was at Blast. I think they did pretty fine, although they lost and didn't qualify, I think. They had like tight results and all of that. So I think for them, and it's especially important because they have winning players. Like they have players that are used to winning tournaments, and for them to win again would maybe like get them back into like flip the switch again, and then like the small thing, like the small 2 or 3 rounds that they need to actually win in important games, then maybe they will win them if they have a bit more confidence and all of that. So actually, I would probably say then MIBR. I think they need it the most out of all of the teams.
Prof or Striker, do you guys have a differing opinion to MIBR being the most integral for a win here?
I think Furia actually has a lot on the line as well. Maybe not this event in itself, but I think if they win this event and then they get the Jönköping spot and they get some Pro Tour points and stuff like that, I think they're obviously in that they're still in danger of being poached by MIBR. I think this MIBR roster is not the end of MIBR doing moves in the next 6 months.
Okay.
In case like a case Serato opens up as a possibility. So I think if Furia win this, which they could, in my opinion, maybe even the most obvious pick to win. I don't know. It's pretty like up in the air. But if they win it, they stick together. If they don't, then the possibility opens up for one of their players to just leave because they're unhappy with where the project is going, obviously.
Okay, so I'm going to take a different angle. I don't think that there's one team that needs it the most. I think there's nine. Sorry, I can't fucking maths.
9 teams.
9 teams.
Not 7 teams, guys. There's 7 teams at this event who all have a case for needing this win, right?
I don't know, but like, do you think Genji counts as one? Honestly,
here's the thing, right? Like, you're gonna get all this money. You're in that league. You're in the Flashpoint league.
Yeah,
and stuff.
sure,
You're
but isn't it their first line though?
Yeah, but that's why I think it's important for that team, the future of that team. So the way that I'd frame it for Genji, the future of this team needs a good start. If they go in there after getting a European boot camp for a team that's never played any events before, like LAN events before together, they had that boot camp. They do have some promising players in there. Obviously, I don't think like Automatic's done yet. He's can always get a chance to come back. I think that Som kid has something to him. Bentet is relatively a good individual. Like these guys here in a group with an MIBR and Ent who are like the walking wounded. Like imagine yourself on the fucking Sahara and there's like some deer and they're just like limping and you guys are lions. Well, you're only a small lion. Genji are a small lion, but they're learning. They gotta learn how to take down the fucking gazelles. They gotta learn, right? So this is their chance to learn. There's actually stock in them having an opportunity here to do well in this group. Because you look at the names are scary, but the results of those names are putting out are not. Okay. And then Genji are also going to look at complexity and go, we fucking play these cunts in America all the time. You know, fuck these guys. Like, there's going to be that whole vibe to it. It's obviously not as important.
I think that's going to be curious if those two meet, just because they probably play against each other a like. Because if you think about actually MIBR probably are one of them too.
I mean, they're probably like in Europe boot camping 90% of the time anyway, so.
Well, Complexity were in the US for a while, as far as
they were like last year, but I don't know if
and Genji obviously must have been, right?
Running at that point. No, officially not.
No, I mean, from Genji have only been playing in this lineup since the beginning of the year, or like mid-January or something.
But they stopped playing with Cloud9 in like October.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but I mean, obviously, like since then, they've probably played against each other shitloads just because there aren't that many teams that you can play, especially when EG are in Europe. I think Liquid were in Europe for a while as well, weren't they?
Yeah, for
Liquid have come here.
Yeah. And so like then you have basically like Complexity, Genji, like teams like United and stuff like that. Not that many to play against each other.
Tell us, Striker,
so I think this group
about the team you think needs it the most. And before that, you had the opportunity to actually correct Sponge on his usage of the Walking Wounded, which is also a thing Kennergy is using all the time, incorrectly, because the definition is the people that are the most capable out of the wounded people. That's why they're the Walking Wounded, not the Lying Wounded.
Well, so
I use it all the time as like someone has 5 HP. He's not. That doesn't make sense, right?
Obviously, he doesn't want to say Walking Dead because he's not dead. But I mean, that's what Walking Dead means, right? They're almost dead.
He's Google.
That's just I'm agreeing with you, Prof. I'm agreeing with you.
If everybody in the room out of us is healthy, right? Let's say all 4 of us are healthy individuals right now. Okay, and we can all walk normally. But then I fall down the stairs and I roll my ankle. I would still be walking, but I'm wounded. Right?
But it
is, but like the term walking wounded is used in an encapsulated space where everyone is wounded. And they are the best out of that people. Like they are the most capable wounded people. In theory, it can be used, but it's not the ideal term to be used.
We'll know that when we use it, that what we mean.
Yeah,
but in this MIBR case, it's not. I don't think it fits the bill, right?
But
not particularly.
If we want to continue to fuck it up, what we can do, which people are good at doing, is irregardless, which is not one to just be regardless.
Regardless. Yeah.
But we can look at this, right? So we had all the teams up there. Genji have an opportunity in that group. I would say that this is probably one of the most stacked tier 2 events ever. Like, is that even harsh to call it a tier 2 event?
It is. Like, there's no top 10 team here. I don't think we have an MVP or anything for this.
This is like when you look at from 15 to 30, where Counter-Strike gets real scary, right? Because like any team here, I feel like Fours can beat Furia, or North can beat Fours, or not. Like everybody can.
Literally the
beat
top,
everybody.
like anybody out of the top 6, I feel like could win in this tournament, which is not very common, right?
Yeah,
it could be the top set. It could be
even
Genji
like
as well.
potential. I don't think Genji could win at that event, like at their first LAN, like that. I don't think that's ever even happened. Like for somebody to win their first event that they ever attended.
But otherwise, it's very blurry, right? Like it's hard to pick.
I'd say North probably has. I would say North and Forest probably has the best chance of winning the tournament. That's what I would say out of all the teams here, because North, they already played a LAN with MSL.
DreamHack, the one at Leipzig.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was their like crash test, if you want, of like that's the first event that they cannot win, that is out of the way. And now with more practice and MSL having more time to like direct the team, like put everything in place, I think they have a very solid shot into taking it all, or at least to making a final. Like I would put them in the final like almost every time. And Force, they're the type of team that they're always annoying to play against. Like they're always the type of team that you draw them and you're like, oh fuck, that's not gonna be easy. So I think there are like a lot of contenders to actually win this tournament. It's a very hard one to predict, in my opinion.
All right, well let's throw a stab in the dark there. Let's all have a pick on one. We'll wrap actually no, yeah. Let's pick who we think is going to win the tournament, and then let's also think of who we think is going to be the best team out of this bunch for the rest of the year. And then we'll move on to you versus Twitch chat, Nathan. So we'll start with you, Striker. Who do you think here is going to win, and who do you think is going to? And is that team also going to be the strongest out of the field for the rest of the year?
Jesus Christ, it's just so hard, man.
Just throw a dart. Just tell us what your gut's feeling.
I'm gonna say MIBR, actually.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't even know why. It's just like the first kind of instinct.
But to win or to be
to win. I'm not sure about being the best because I kind of agree with Prof. I'm not entirely sure that the lineup changes have been over.
We're talking about the core of the team anyway. Like if they change the player, that also counts.
Yeah, of course. I still feel like Fours will be the best out of the bunch long term.
Okay.
Okay,
Prof,
that is interesting. I would go. I'm picking Furia to win, but I also think, irregardless of what I said before, I still think MIBR is going to be the best long term.
Okay, Nathan.
I'll go with North winning the tournament, and I'll go with Complexity, the best team of the whole year.
Oh.
I've been international teams.
I've been hurt so many times by North. Like I've been hurt, like physically, mentally, emotionally. Like
MSL beats you up after
they've
really criticized him.
Really, they've crippled me, and that's why I'm going to pick them to win the tournament, and also be the best team.
Wait, who are you talking about?
North. No,
I'm
gonna. I'm used to getting beaten up. I want some more.
Actually, can I change mine? Now that I thought about it for like another minute. I wanted to pick Complexity to win, but Force still to be the best.
Complexity to be the best? Winning.
He said Force to be the best.
Complexity to win the event, but Force to be the best long term.
All right, well, we're going to wrap it up there. We'll see who
opinions.
wins Anaheim. It's going to be starting soon, 50 minutes. You guys know where to find it. We're going to be moving on. Lucas, let's cue it up. We're going to Smarter Than Twitch chat.
All
right, we're back. Smarter Than Twitch chat. Smarter Than a Twitch chat. Smarter Than Twitch chat. Nathan versus Twitch chat. Twitch chat. Spam emojis. Words.
More than a third grader.
All right, we got there in the end. Okay, Nathan, this is always a fun segment. We really enjoy it here. I am the only person who's actually ever beaten Twitch chat. I don't even have any advice for you. I just guessed half the answers and somehow still won. So what's going to happen here? I'm going to read out. The questions here for the audio viewers. You're going to be picking. You're going to have your nice little panel there. You're going to click. Now, don't say what your answer is until I want you to be like, "Yep, okay, I'm good now." And then Lucas will bring up the actual answer, and you will reveal your answer and Twitch chat's answer at the same time. Otherwise, they'll just copy you. Are we ready?
Okay, so I don't. So let me sum it up. So I don't want to fuck it up. So I don't say anything. I see the question. I don't say anything.
Hey, you shouldn't give away what you think.
Oh, I
You
click.
can be musing. You know, you can be musing. You can be umming and ahhing. Some reactions would be nice. I would enjoy those bits and pieces.
You can try like a bait.
Yeah, try.
Yeah.
Like a fake out. Like, it's obviously.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
So let's start it. Let's begin the quiz. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. When did Hunden play his last big event? V4 not included. 2014, 2016, or 2018? His last
I didn't see the thing.
Big event.
Oh, I've seen it.
Questions here.
Was it an article very recently?
Oh dear, ladies and gentlemen.
Was it your article, Prof? Did you
I'd go with that.
Post about it?
Okay, I liked mine.
All right.
I know it was a very long time. I was shocked when I saw it.
Reveal the answers, Lucas. Oh, we've gone for 2014.
Nice.
Twitch chat gone for 2016. You've got a point up here.
Okay, that's 1-0.
How many we doing, Prof? How many questions we got? So
we're doing a 7 for this one.
7. All right, quite a few. All right, question number 2 here.
What's up? Yeah. Oh no. Wait, what is the question? Oh,
all good.
Okay. Which in-game leader was first to win a $1 million event in CSGO? Which in-game leader was first to win a $1 million event in CSGO? Was it A, Taz, B, Flusher, or C, Fallen? A, Taz, B, Flusher, C, Fallen. Lock in your answers, ladies and gentlemen.
I have no idea. I'll just guess that.
All right, well, time's up and the answers will be revealed right now. Lucas has shown Twitch chat going for Fallen, NBK going for Flusher.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, it is Fallen there. C.
Shit.
I believe that would have been
the major.
One of the majors. All right.
Major.
Columbus.
No idea.
Columbus. All right. Going on to question number 3 here. Nathan is all tied up. We will have a picture of Gobby on your screens. Who filled Gobby's place in mouz after the in-game leader's departure? Was it A, Spitty, B, Chris J, or C, Dennis? Now, this is about who filled in for him after he departed.
I'm quite sure it's him. I'm quite sure.
All right.
I'm quite sure.
People actually
sort of quite sure.
Questioning Flusha being an in-game leader in the chat. A lot of new fans.
That's all right. We like all the fans. You know, we like all the fans here, Prof. We enjoy everyone's coming in. All right. Well, we've gone.
Let's see.
It's actually A.
Speedy?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
So Spitty's come on in. He's taken Gobby's position, and now, well, it is tied at 1-1. Going on question number 4 here.
Did it say in which team it was? Was it in
mousesports? Yeah.
Oh, in
mousesports.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, okay. I was thinking about Big when he. Yeah, I was thinking about Big.
Also, wasn't. It was Dennis coming in.
I think it was Dennis because
Dennis left at the same time. Right?
Yeah, the second part was Dennis.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on to question number 4 here, Lucas. All right. In which country did Smiths win his last LAN as a player? In which country did Smiths win his last LAN as a player? Was it A, Sweden, B, UK, or C, France? His last LAN.
And this doesn't include like some local French LANs, of course.
Oh, shit.
Just like HLTV real LANs.
Then I fucked up.
Well, Nathan's thrown in his pick here with 3 seconds left. We'll be revealing the votes now. Lucas, pull them up.
I tried to bait the chat into going into France.
Good shout out, Nathan. We'll be getting it correct there. And that tournament was, ladies and gentlemen.
ECS, right?
Yeah, ECS season 1.
I was hoping someone would tell me, and they did, and that's why props here. All right, number 5. Question number 5. Ooh, which international LAN did Aleksib play with Havu in 2017? Was it A, the Zotac Cup? Was it B, China Top? Or was it C, SL Invitational? Zotac Cup, China Top, SL Invitational.
I'm going to say that.
I think I know which one it is.
I'm not sure.
I love the names of these like Chinese events.
You know what? I'm going to go with that. I changed my mind last again.
All right. Well,
I don't remember them in that one.
Nathan's gone for China Top. They've gone for SL Invitational.
Has to be right on that one.
Yeah. The thing is, they're really smart, Twitch chat, Nathan. They don't do anything on their computers behind the scenes. They're not googling anything. They just focus. So,
to be honest, like they missed a lot of questions so far. So I think it's
they missed some. I'm actually quite surprised.
All right, so it is a 2-3 scoreline in the favor of Twitch chat here. We're moving on to question number 5 now. 6, sorry, I can't count. I can't count and I can't spell.
Add.
On which team did Daps assume the coach role for a short period of time? Was it A, NRG? Was it B, Optic? Or was it C, Denial? A, NRG, B, Optic, or C, Denial?
Questions are hard.
This one I know.
Probably, yeah, I know this because I did like... Well, yeah, I'm not going to say why, because then I would do it.
You wrote the article.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty recently too, so
okay,
I remember.
Again, randomness. Praying for our RNG gods.
Votes have come on in. Oh, both are going to be incorrect here. It will be NRG, ladies and gentlemen. All right, well, Nathan has a chance here. Losing. He still has a chance. There's questions 6 and 7 to go. If he gets both of these right, he could steal the lead, assuming Twitch chat get none. Yeah, it's just 7. Never mind. He can tie.
I can tie it up. I can tie it up.
Let's go. Let's go Twitch chat. I can't take more losses. Yes.
Out of the 15 majors played, how many were won by teams playing on home soil? Was it A1, B2, or C3? This one here does play along like a little bit of a trick question. I do enjoy it. Let's see. We've got a couple of seconds left now as we're ticking on down.
Oh.
Okay, I didn't make it all the way to the end, but I'm pretty sure
I said 2, but I'm not sure. Because I can remember Fnatic and VP. Yeah,
3.
In America, did in America?
Cloud9
in Boston.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I was also got to 2, and then I couldn't fucking figure out the third one.
Because I was like, there has to be a team that won in North America, but I was thinking about Columbus.
But there are no good North American teams again, except Liquid, and Liquid didn't win a major, so.
Twitch chat are getting worse, which is good. So they didn't destroy you here. We've had some where Twitch chat have almost got all of them right before, so this is quite good. But that's perfect actually, because the tie-in right now can be to Katowice, which is where the VP of one of those 3 major wins that we just referenced won a major title. So this is perfect. This is how it works. We can segue directly into Katowice, which is one of the biggest tournaments going on. So yeah, it's just around the corner here. Nathan, you've had your opportunities to play a fair share of these. Do you want to give it like a nice little player perspective on why Katowice is a good event, a prestigious event?
It's a great tournament. I know we always perform like shit at Katowice, so I can't really it's not an event I have in my heart, but as a tournament itself, it's obviously an insane tournament. I think a lot of legacy from all those big tournaments, like especially Katowice and Cologne, or since their inception, there were the amount of fans, the amount of people that turned up, the quality of games, like what those tournaments meant every time. Well, it just carried on years after years, and like it's still the case. Like if you win Katowice, this is one of the best tournaments, and especially this year with the amount of teams that are playing there and like the amount of good teams, this is if you win this one, you're proving yourself definitely as one of the greatest. So.
Just to put some context on what you just said, you only made it out of groups once in Katowice.
Yeah, this tournament is not... I never had good memories.
In 6 attempts, holy shit. That's a pretty bad record.
It's horrible. Like, this tournament never worked out good. Like, I don't know, it's just... March is not
you're not going to get eliminated in groups. That's
that's true. I'll take that good thing, I guess.
Yeah,
I'll be watching.
Okay. Well, that's
what I wanted to say about the difficulty of the tournament. This year, this tournament, Katowice 2020, has all of the top 10 teams attending, like currently top 10 teams, which did not happen at any event in the last year. I didn't go, like the majors had top 9, the 10th team missing at both of them. I didn't go back into like 2018 and stuff like that because I don't have the time to do that. But I don't think we ever had like an event with all of the top 10 teams attending, like literally ever in CSGO, maybe like once or twice. So that just shows how stacked it is. And even the worst teams, like Renegades is like one of the worst teams, and they are a pretty solid team in itself, right? Sure. So it's stacked like from the both sides. Like the top is stacked, and the bottom is also pretty sick.
I think from a current, obviously, we're level of the teams, we're in a good position for this one here. I always have like good memories of this event. That's where like we beat 3D Max and fucking, I forget those cunts' names. Dignitas, beat Pimp and AZ and those guys. You know, for me, little victories that are important. But yeah, so looking at this one right here, we'll look at the more of the current climate. We'll save the emotional stuff for another time. The first port of call here is obviously mousesports ended the end of 2019 quite nicely. Things were looking good for them. They were winning a lot, lots of winning with stand-ins, winning with coaches, winning when they shouldn't win. And
number 2 for 9 weeks in a row, I might say.
Yes, that's another.
Getting there. The money.
I don't know who's counting. I don't know why anybody would be counting. Do we
that's
think
2 months, but that's only 2 months, and we only have 4 to go. That's a third of the way.
Yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, Striker. Don't get too ahead of yourself here, man. All right. Do we think mousesports can win this event based off what we've seen from all the other teams up to this point? Yes or no?
Prof. Do we use yeah or nay?
Nah, fuck it. We can dive a little bit deeper into this one. I saved some time. I wanted to really get into some Katowice discussion.
Good job, Sponge. I think they can. Like, personally, I'm constantly kind of, if everyone's buying mousesports, since they assembled the team, I'm selling all of the time, like all the time, and it worked. It worked for the first kind of 6 months, and now it's starting to not work because they're winning everything. I think the way they approached their like break and the tournament they played, I think that puts them in a great position where they had enough time off to not be burnt out at this point, but also played enough events to be kind of match fit. I think the combination of those things is pretty good. Like, I think they put themselves in the best position to win this event, but it's such a hard event to win that it's stupid to predict them to like, even I can't say like there is a single team that I'm confident, even Astralis or anyone, that I'm confident that is going to be winning this event with any sort of certainty.
And that kind of puts us in a weird position for this conversation, because I feel like for the majority of the other tournaments we'd come into, we could have like 1 or 2 clear favorites and then narrow it down maybe to 4 teams, right? Like we'd be like, yeah, these guys are probably in striking distance, but for the first time in a long time, it feels like we're going in with a very, very open field. To be very like lazy about it, and if you just wanted to base it off of who is likely to win a big tournament, we'd probably all default around, like if a gun was to our head and like, you know, we had to pick the most likely option, I think most of us would default back to Astralis, right? Like if you wouldn't, okay.
I have another take.
Hit me.
So I have 2 ways of thinking of it. I like mouse chances purely due to the fact that they didn't play Blast, and so that they have all the data of all the other teams that play there and that played hard games like best of 3s and all of that. So I think it's going to go very well for them. Second, it's probably like unlikely to happen as clearly, but I would put FaZe into one of the favorites to just take this specific tournament, because the kind of form they're in, and again the data they're going to take on all the other teams and all of that, and the way they approach Counter-Strike and they play, to me, carries very well in such a hard tournament where you just keep on playing over and over again, like a lot of best of 3s. And for them, if they have their momentum, they're just going to go on and on. Like, they're not going to anti-strat super hard. They're not going to get anti-stratted super hard. They're going to come in, click, kill people, and then do their small like things that they have that they're going to adapt in between. And so I can see them as one of the bigger dogs in this tournament phase. That would be my take. And then, as you said, I think it's hard to predict one team, but I actually really like the chances of FaZe, regardless of all the other teams that are here in their current ranking. To me, it doesn't say too much for this tournament specifically.
The thing is, like, I have the same feeling about FaZe as Prof does mousesports. Like, whenever I hear something about FaZe and, you know, them doing well, obviously they actually did well in Blast. They were really confident there. So I can see where you're coming from. But whenever I see, like, whenever I hear somebody, oh, FaZe have been looking really amazing, like, you know, the next event they just bomb out. So I'm just like, I'm gonna be cautious about, you know, picking them to win anything at this point until I actually see them do it. So yeah, I'm not sure until I see more.
Do we think that Liquid and EG, with what they've shown over the weeks at Blast, are like still in the trophy discussion, Prof?
It's pretty interesting. Like, even before the show, I went on the betting sites just to see like who the favorites are, because like by their standards, because I don't know how to even rank some of these teams. And I think Liquid were like the 5th team, and Evil Genius was 7th or something like that in the top. So it's like Navi, FaZe, Astralis, Mouse are ahead of these teams. And I think that's kind of fair at the moment. Using like NBK's logic about FaZe is like hot hand maybe, and these other teams, and the recent form of Liquid and Evil Genius is not being that exciting. I think it's kind of fair, but at the same time, it's you can't really count out Liquid from this just based on Blast, which is their kind of warm up tournament, right? That is the tournament where they have to look a bit shit, then come into Katowice and play their real level or closer to their real level. So if they do that, then I think they're in a good position. Evil Geniuses maybe not that much, right?
Okay, so I got one for you here, Nathan. This one is one that you could probably talk about. So we saw Vitality kind of fumble a little bit at Blast, and the main take for me with these guys going forward is the other individuals on the team have to all lift their level. Now you were a part of this team. Obviously, roster changes did happen.
Yep.
Do you think that the team has the ability to be like a consistent top 3 team in the world, considering how competitive the climate is at the moment?
Top 3, like in the top 3, I couldn't guarantee it. In the top 5-8, 100%. Just because of all their approach. I mean, the caliber of players there are. Because sure, I mean, in terms of rating, it doesn't look like super appealing and all of that. But like they're always here to some degree, and I think that loss at Blast really hurt them. In the sense that it's going to help them bounce back. So, I mean, to me, it's with the group that they have to bounce back because they have so much experience, they have so much staff behind them and all of that. Now, in terms of individuals, like, it's going to sound a bit stupid, but I haven't seen ZywOo being as impactful as he was, but like, I think it's fair enough to forgive him in terms of the how high he is playing his level of Counter-Strike constantly. So I think it's fair enough. But I feel like he was a little bit below of the usual standard he had the whole last year. No idea where that comes from, but that's just what I saw. And I think it's hard to pinpoint. Yeah, like There are some sides of the map that are not stable, I feel like, and like the roles, I think, are not 100% defined and clear cut and exploited as good as possible. And so that would be probably my take. And then, yeah, I guess in order to be top 3 more consistently, probably a matter of all the players stepping up just a little bit, because you have to have heavy hitters, and so it's good to have to make individual actions. But it's important to have those reliable frags that you can have constantly, because I think they have everything else, right? They have like the big star player, big upper with a lot of impact. They have very good preparation. They have very good stuff around them. They have a good structure. I mean, they have really a lot of things going good, and so that's why they're going to always stay in that range of top 5-8 teams, in my opinion. And then form on the moment is probably going to define whether they're going to be winning the tournament or whether they're not going to make it.
Sure.
Can I ask something about the same topic now? Now that you're not in the team, it's obviously something that all of the players in Vitality, except ZywOo, have to deal with all the time. Is like, you're shit, you're not fragging. ZywOo is having 30 kills every game. Yep. Is it really a thing that you're setting him up, at least when you were playing, that you're setting him up that much that it really impacts your individual level? Not your individual level, but everyone's on the team. It's not like Avant-Garde where Sanji is like sacrificing everything. But can all 4 players be subdued to one? Is that a realistic thing?
I would see it more as a rotation, in the sense that the way that we approach games were always very specific to who we were facing. And so the main actors of who's going to be more impactful in the game is going to change in general between players, because they're going to play more into an area or another. So you put more focus into one or another. And so if you look at the game, I think more precisely, sure, the average is like, let's say the average is 1 rating for all the players except ZywOo. But those players are going to spike during some games and then be less impactful into other ones. And so that whole balance and that average that I see and that we had as well before makes us win games, because you always have one player that is going to stand out during one game plus ZywOo, right? So that's 2 players. And then with the system that we had, it was enough to win games. And
Usually it kind of took like multiple people being consistent like across the entire event for you guys to win, or at least be in a position to win, you know? So yeah, is that something that you can see in Vitality's future?
Yeah, I think it's again, like, I think that dynamic is the one that is working for Vitality, where you have like one player spiking during a game alongside Zaiwu, or two players, and then from there they're gonna crush on maybe another game, but then two other players are gonna relay that. And so that's how I see the average of, like, you're gonna win games because some people are spiking at some moment, and then it's gonna be compensated by something else. But yeah, the average is gonna look bad, but in the actual games, you're always gonna be some players standing out and playing better, and then helping the game win. And then with the whole system, even if you have a bad rating, don't get kills, get entry fragged all the time, then if you have a good system, that's going to compensate that as well. And so you will win rounds based off of that. And even if you have 15 kills, you can have like 15 super impactful kills, entry frags, or whatever, impactful frags, and still be very useful for the system, for the group. So I think this is the way they are right now. And again, for them to win tournaments, I think the peak needs to happen more constantly from all the players, and then be stable to that. Because again, I think everything that is around is pretty well rounded in Vitality.
So we've got a little subtitle here talking about which of the top 10 teams will flop, right? If there's any real standout there. The reason I asked you towards the Vitality one and like your explanation on them, the team, is because I look at them as one of those fringe teams, right? You said 5 to 8. Yeah, I'd put them around that level, maybe even like starting to fringe out towards the tail end of the top 10. And that's where you get into the danger of not making it out of the playoff bracket, right? So, or making it to the playoff bracket. So they would be my team to have falling off there. So out of the top 10, I'm going to read them out for everybody. Astralis, mousesports, Liquid, Fnatic, EG, Na'Vi, Vitality, G2, FaZe, and now 100 Thieves. Striker, who have you got as yours here who's in danger of not making that playoff bracket? Like, obviously, there's several names, but I think one that sticks out.
Fnatic is like the most obvious one to pick out, just because like they've sorry, they've had such a long break, and we have no clue about what their form looks like, what they've been looking even like in practice, which obviously doesn't mean that much all the time, but still we've literally heard nothing about what their form looks like. So it's so complicated. So it's so hard to tell if they're gonna make it or not. But obviously, like after 3 months or 2.5 months or something that they had off, they're probably not going to be at their best.
Flash has had long breaks and come back, right? So him as an individual,
sure, like individually, I can see like them being okay, but I don't know. I feel like 2.5 months is a long time to go without an official match, and usually when teams come back from that, they don't look very good.
What do you make of 100 Thieves here? Do you think they're going to bounce back from Blast?
Look, in this stack of competition, I don't think they're making it through.
Okay.
That's like 6 teams going in playoff, right?
Yeah, 6 teams.
Only 6 teams out of all the top 10. And obviously, they're already like on the fringe, and they didn't really do well. So at where they played Blast, right?
Yeah, they had 2 close maps against G2, and then they had a blowout loss on Train, and then they had a close second map against EG.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and honestly, when I was looking at them, they didn't even look that great individually. So it's like I didn't really see that much that was going well. Jacob had a rough time, right?
Had a rough
from what
series,
I remember. Yeah. So it's just like I didn't see much
for 3 weeks or something. So
they got here in the middle of January, so they've already been in Europe for over a month at this point.
Yeah, so it seems weird that their level was so low at Blast. Like it wasn't even. Of course, when we compare them to maybe like a Liquid who had an easier group and who probably are just individually better players. So maybe their like low form doesn't look that bad overall and gives them better results. Like 100 Thieves were kind of just like they weren't in it at any point. Like it didn't seem like they would win anything. So it's pretty concerning for me. And going into Katowice, as you said, it's like even for them making top 6 is an upset almost, because they're ranked number 10 at the moment, and there's nothing to base that on. I think I think Fnatic, Evil Geniuses, and 100 Thieves. Those are the 3 teams that I think could be completely flopping here, even losing to some of the teams that are like the Mad Lions or those of in the groups.
All right, who you got, Nathan? Who's not making out of the top? Like, who's the number 1 team you're the most worried for out of the top 10?
most worried for, and like considering their ranking and all of that, is probably Fnatic, because I think they're a group of guys and a kind of team that needs to play, like they're the type of team that they could play 5 LAN tournaments in 5 weekends and they will still carry on form from one weekend to another, because I think this is the kind of teams that they are and the kind of players that they are. And for them to be on a 2-month plus break and then come back straight into it, you know, like who are they facing first round? Like, okay, so that's the thing that can go well for them, is that if they play Renegades and they smash them first game, they're gonna get the confidence straight, and they're gonna play Navi or FaZe that are pretty good for Fnatic to face in terms of game style, and so
that's
they can get
match,
rolling.
by the way. That's like by far the best match of the entire bunch from the first round.
So if they manage to like get a lot of confidence beating Renegades moving forward, or even I think even then just beating them and just showing that they can headshot hard. And then coming against Navi and FaZe, I think they could make it through that route. If they go into the loser bracket and have to play more best of 3s,
you start to worry for them.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bit rougher. But I think they have the chance into making it straight like this by winning the first 2 best of 3s. And then 100 Thieves, as you said. I think the good thing for them is that they play G2 first round. I think it's a good thing for them, since they got beat by them in like 2 pretty tight games, and then because it was tight, it can give like a small edge for them to come back and then to go over the top, like more of a mental thing, like approach thing, where G2 is probably not going to change too much of their approach of the game following Blast because they won, and then 100 Thieves is obviously gonna there's gonna be talks within the players, and they're gonna move forward with something new that could be good against G2, like a sort of new energy or something. So
okay,
but then making it out of the bracket, because then they will most likely face mouz, and it's like, and they beat mouz at this point, you know, it's like pretty hard, and then the loser bracket is going to be fucking madness in this group. So yeah, I guess it's the 2 big ones. I still like EG's chances, to be honest. Yeah, Fnatic and 100 Thieves, I'm a bit worried for them.
All right, so let's keep it going. Let's talk about the dark horses, right? So we've just been talking a lot more about the favorites, the teams within the upper echelons of this, but now we're going to have to deal with, and I think this one's clear, who would all agree with the team with the most chances of being within striking distance of knocking out big names would probably be Mad Lions, right?
For sure.
But there are a bunch of other names here which we should probably talk into a little bit. So we saw Renegades play with hats. We saw them play at Leipzig, and they didn't look terrible. Whether or not we think that
they made the finals and lost to Big, who are also like playing pretty
yeah,
well,
so they over-exceeded there, you would say, right? Tai Lu have only been let in because Vici couldn't make it, and they've been boot camping apparently in Europe, if I have been listening on the grapevine correctly.
Correct. Yeah.
So in terms of like, they should be at some decent level there. Cloud9 spent some time in Europe as well because of the whole Leipzig situation. I think they're still here now, boot camping for the world of Katowice. Virtus Pro, aka Avantgarde, who have dropped off the face of a cliff for everybody here. We don't know what the fuck's going on with that team. And then obviously you've got NIP, who we saw play Blast, and then Mad Lions. Those are the teams who are looking at as the outliers here, right? Mad Lions is the one that we know has almost everything they need. They just have to perform against the best teams in the world, right? Everyone agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, I mean, they have not maybe everything they need, but
well, in terms of, we're saying like firepower or whatever, but in terms of
they
like
have
strategies,
2 very good players and 2 more good
honestly,
players,
like,
and then
even Shush and Roy. So you were talking about Mad Lions, right?
Yes.
Even Shush and Roy are kind of like underrated, I feel like, at this point. Obviously, like the focus is on Acor as the opera, who just gets a lot of attention, obviously, just because of his stats too, and Bobsky as a player who's got an MVP from their win at V4 and just generally has been keeping up a pretty high performance. But it's just all those 4 can be stars for that team at any point. Like I've seen all 4 just have massive games that just won them entire maps. So it's like it's just pretty deep how that firepower goes in Mad Lions.
Is there any other names here, Nathan, that you think could, like, especially with the more exotic bunch here, like the Cloud9, the Renegades, the Tylers, even NIP, I think is quite exotic considering how many now young names have piled up on that team.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to be fair, I don't expect Mad Lions to upset much, to be honest, because I think they're gonna start being figured out, and like now that they're grinding in the ranking, like a Hunden game, you know, it's pretty straightforward and strict. So I think when people are gonna figure them out, and they're gonna do it for Katowice, sure. They're gonna have a much harder time, so I don't expect them to upset too much. NIP on their A game, I think, just because of the raw firepower. BP on the same same page as you are. Like, what is happening with this roster? Like, they were always like a team that was so annoying to play against, and now I don't know. They're just not doing that.
I was expecting them to do the rumored roster change before this event. I don't know if it's still going to happen because there was the report about. I'm blanking. Who was it?
What was it that they wanted to get?
It didn't say who they were going to replace, did it?
No, but who they
wanted to get who?
I completely like it was either like a Dren or Sanji being removed, but I don't remember the name of the player there.
Dude, I don't remember either.
Someone from the chat, please.
Oh my god.
Yeah, chat, Twitch chat, it's your time to shine.
Jesus Christ.
Google
my brain.
Some Young.
Oh yeah.
Norbert, it's Norbert.
Norbert.
Sometime was
someone says SDY. Fuck.
There was also
someone just first guy just trolled you.
No, there was also a report about some dying somewhere, but I think that was like completely like immediately proven untrue.
Yeah. I know the team that I can see upset teams are like Renegades because I'm a Dexter fanboy. That might be that might be a big part of it. But I don't know. I feel like they're like pretty smart in the way they play and their approach. And if Dexter gets in his mode of like entry fragging and then just goes like a mad dog and then just like destroys everyone in his path, he can put them in a good position. So I can see them upset a little bit.
They already proved they can upset. They upset like Evil Geniuses and Liquid at that Malmo event when both of them weren't like in their peak form. That was the travel event and all of that stuff. But still, like they beat Liquid on their Mirage that had like a 16-game streak, like win streak, coming back on the T side from like 13-2 or something. So that is some legit stuff. They can upset these big teams. I also think like it's Mad Lions and Renegades. Mad Lions maybe beat some of these like top but struggling teams, maybe like 100 Thieves or maybe a Fnatic or something. I don't know who's in which group, so don't quote me on this. But
they're up against DG actually the first time.
Yeah, maybe they can get the win off someone like that. Even though I'm also like I want to see them play like more top teams and how it pans out, because so far they've been like super cool to watch overall, and Acor on the op has been super sexy. So if he can continue that, he can be like one of these players that is like when Device decides to like retire because he doesn't want to play anymore and he won like 7 majors. Then he's like, okay, let's get this guy.
Shit, he's going to wait for a long time then.
He's got a long time to wait. Jesus
That's like 2 years, right? If they win all the majors.
Yeah, he's just going to...
But Device is going to keep on going. He's going to take like 15 of them if he wants.
Win as many as you can,
man. But maybe he's just like, I'm sick of this.
Maybe
I want to go play badminton or something.
Let's try and narrow this down here, boys, because... we've been very, oh my god, yeah, anyone can win, and I hate that. I hate like that. That for me, like, because of course, anybody can win, but let's try and steer this.
But it kind of shows how this, like, in what space we are at this moment in CS.
Good though, right?
And at this event, like, it's fucking impossible to call.
Which I think is one of those things, but we should make sure that even though we're going into an event where so many questions are left unanswered, or we have so many questions going in where we want to see how these kind of things unfold. Let's saddle up with what we know and make some boldish kind of claims here with our collective brain trust. Who do we think are going to make the top 6? Right? Let's go with that. If we can lock in who we think is going to make the top 6, and when we come back into
are we doing this collectively?
Let's do it collectively. Say the winner. Let's see if we can convince each other here into like working as a collective to come up with the top 6. And that's
I think we were picking Astralis and mousesports at this point. I think those are the 2 we can all agree on.
So the brackets are very important in this situation.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Mouz is going to make it through the first round.
So Lucas, if you bring up the brackets, what we'll do is
let's
go
Group A. Let's start
Group
with
A, and then we'll go
group.
Group B, and we'll see who we think is going to make it. We'll talk through this stuff. So that link before, he's obviously working it out, guys. He's
honestly based on just the opening round, because Navi and FaZe are playing against each other. One of them will have to make the lower run, which is like next to impossible almost. Like you have to win 3 best of 3s in a row after that point,
right? That one right there, that game is probably a 50-50.
Yeah, I mean we can agree that it's unlikely that either of them, whoever loses, is going to go through the lower bracket, right?
Well, I think
I'll take both teams to go through. To be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, I think whoever loses is the favorite to go through the lower bracket, but still, I understand what you're trying to say. Like it's
just like they're obviously at a deficit already, like from the start, right?
From a betting point of view, it's not ideal to pick them, but we're not betting, so I think.
Okay, I would agree that I would pick both, like if they were outside of it. But okay, I can
we're going Astralis, Navi, FaZe.
That's what I got. Yeah.
And then we go into Group B, and then there's mousesports,
and then
Liquid, and G2.
You actually wanted G2?
I'll go.
Oh, all right.
Wait, you said what? You don't want G2?
We said G2 to go through,
G2.
yeah.
Oh,
Lucas, scroll down the bracket for the viewers at home for us, would you, mate, so they can see Group B. So from
I'd
Group
say
A, we're assuming Astralis,
For
Navi,
Group B,
FaZe.
I'd say EG instead of Liquid. I would
Instead
throw
of
that
Liquid.
little thing, like that different idea.
Do you still think G2?
Yeah, I'm quite confident. I like them in the first. Like it's a best of one, so like you can go either way. I think G2 is still slightly favorite. If G2 goes in the lower bracket, it's gonna be.
This should all be best of
harder,
threes
but-
now, right?
Oh, opening
best
round
of
is best
Yeah,
of three.
we've added an extra
Yes.
day, so there should be best of threes. And then in the future, for Cologne, for example, there'll be a qualifier, I think, of some variety.
Oh, okay, that changes a little bit.
Cologne will also have the first match, best of three. It's one of these, all of these Masters Championship events, which are the events that you need to win one of to win the Intel Grand Slam in 4 events. They will have the first match as best of three. Other ones will still have the best of one and be 1 day shorter. But yeah, as you said, Cologne will also have some sort of a LAN qualifier preceding the LAN itself.
Right.
So it's going to be similar to the major in terms of like teams.
But this group
Phases,
is a bit harder, right? I know that we all like, obviously, mousesports with their performance last year, it makes it difficult not to include them. But the same thing can be said, right? Is that there's going to be a very big magnifying glass looking at all the different plays that they've been using, right? Like Carrigan just with that train play where he smokes out his own team main smoke and pushes out and then goes down the sandwich smoke, comes back up around the E. But like those kind of plays, they're not going to work anymore. And if they do, I'm going to be fucking astonished because this kind of shit is stuff that people should be, super prepared for. So I think just based off of form, and mousesports should be Vici in the opening. Off of what we saw from G2,
that is because the bracket is bugged because it's a new thing and we can't replace it right now. So unfortunately,
sorry, Tyloo, guys. But I think the 100 Thieves can still make it. But obviously, I'm going to say that. But I think like the most common, we would say like either Liquid or EG surely have to make it here.
I'm gonna say so. I'm gonna give you my reasoning. I would see EG beating Mad Lions, Liquid beating VP, EG beating Liquid in the semifinal, and then the final of the lower bracket, I would see G2 against Liquid, and then I would then see G2 taking over Liquid.
Really?
At this point,
where do you stand, Striker?
How do you justify that?
How do I justify?
Striker, just give us your opinion instead of.
Well, he just said that Liquid, but G2 would beat Liquid in like a straight up like a lower bracket final, best of 3, which is just something that I'm.
It is again like I'm not going the normal route because
it's a gut instinct call.
Like top 6, like there's no way on earth that the
I think
top 6 ranked teams are gonna make it through to the playoffs. Like there's no way. There's no way number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are gonna make it 6 in the playoff, and then the life is perfect. And then number 1 ranked is first, second is second. Like there's no way.
Oh, of course, it doesn't always.
That
come
happened
true.
at ECS
Makes
season
sense.
8. But what actually is happening here is NBK lost to G2 twice. That's why in his brain, G2 is like an amazing team because otherwise they wouldn't lose. That's why
obviously
he's overselling
he's
them right
French
now.
too, so that's like another.
Exactly for my guys. Now, so how I see G2 is a very concise team where their plan is really laid out and they're headshotting within it, and so that's what I really like about them. And against a team like Liquid that is more all over the place, and that will try to take advantage of rotations. And they're also in a period where I don't think they have like 100% confidence coming into the tournaments. I could very well see an upset happening, mostly in terms of playstyle between the two teams, and the fact that right now G2 is like full of confidence, they have the firepower working, and I could just see it happen, like G2 being taken down by Liquid. I think it's there's also going to be the battle of upper that you can think of in the matchup. Nitro is very passive, Kenny is very aggressive, although now on CT he's much more passive, and so I think it's a big advantage to Kenny because he is obviously the aggressive master when he's going in and peeking, and Nitro is more passive or like taking calculated risks. And so I could see Kenny being a good advantage in that matchup. And then overall in terms of game style, I could very well see G2 upsetting Liquid there at this tournament. So that would be my reason.
We're going to get FaZe versus Navi as the grand final. Let's do that.
You're still in the Navi train.
Just I'm never going to leave.
I mean, we have it as the first match. Why do we have to have it as the grand final?
Let's have it as the grand final as well. It's going to be such a banger. That's going to be
so. Did we agree on the three teams from this
We
group
didn't.
Or not?
We didn't. But we know mouz is in there.
The mouz we can all agree on. I think. I guess that I don't like G2 to go through. Honestly,
Why don't you like G2 to go through?
Because especially based on Nathan's logic, if Liquid actually do, how did EG play G2 before? I'm trying to remember when they played against each other. Because they must have played against each other at some point.
Not with these lineups, I don't think so.
Not with these lineups? Because I don't see G2 stylistically beating either Liquid or EG.
Yeah, I think G2 would have a much harder time against EG in terms of matchup. In terms of like playstyle, but I think against Liquid,
it'd be a very brawly game of Counter-Strike.
It's both. Yeah. It's both of them would be, honestly, and that's where G2 would lose because both Liquid and EG are just better at it. That's assuming they're going to be on a good level. Obviously, EG didn't really show much at Blast, and I'm hoping that they will revive from that. But if they do, I don't see G2 beating them. So that's why I would rather go with the two Americans rather than G2.
So Sponge, it's your call.
Fuck. See, the thing is, so I have to pick either G2 or Liquid here. But if I call that, if I go or EG,
so we have like 4 teams for the 3 spots.
All right.
Yeah, pretty much.
Look, another team I don't want to give up on yet is Liquid. But the thing is, like, if Liquid keep coming back in and trying the same shit they're trying, they're not getting past Astralis, like, which means they're not getting the win. So. Fuck. I think fuck it. Go with EG. Let's.
EG and Liquid or EG and G2.
We're not asking between Liquid and EG. We're asking between Liquid, EG, and G2.
There's two. The thing is,
2 out of those 3 have to make it through.
Yeah.
Right?
The reason, like, if it got down to a close game that went 3 maps, I see Liquid beating G2, right? But that's if Liquid can even get to that point, which I don't know if they can yet. Let's go with G2. Let's add a bit of spice in the mix. Let's just throw G2 in the mix to be a little bit spicy. I personally think 100 Thieves is going to make the playoffs. So, this is where but the thing is, we could be doing this all day. We're going to do one last quick thing here, Lucas. We're going to flick over, just quickly run the playtime bit, and then we're going to talk about this last thing to do with contract, and then we're done and dusted. Whack it on, mate. All right, guys, we're going to make this one quick. This is to do with players' contracts being available publicly. Prof, why?
Why not?
Exactly.
So,
give me the reason. Sell me on it.
So, yeah, we'll start with the why. Obviously, first from a player perspective or an org perspective and making transfers, even though people say, okay, you can just message a player, and you'll find out, or if you're a player, you can message other players and find out what's their salary like. I think that is maybe accurate to a degree, but it also has a barrier to entry. So maybe when someone new is coming to the scene as a team owner potentially, or a player that just like broke through out of nowhere, like a Brokey or a Bemus or whatever. These players are just playing FPL, don't really know people. They don't have a resource to go through and really gauge how much people are earning to know how to ask for a paycheck for themselves, right? Or from team owner perspective, they don't know how much other teams are paying, so they can maybe overpay or maybe offer too little, and maybe like their whole operation can't really function because they budgeted for like $10,000 and the salaries are average $20,000 because they got information from the wrong guy, right? So all of these things come into play why they would be public. And also for player transfers, let's say NBK is unhappy in a team, or someone wants to pick up NBK, but you don't know when his contract is running out. How do you get to that information? You need to message him, then you need to message another guy, and then you need to, like, if you want to make a short list of players that you want to sign in like 6 months, you need to message 30 players. And at that point, you're also drawing a lot of attention to yourself because people talk, and then it's going to be, oh, why is this guy asking about all of these players? And maybe someone in that team is going to get kicked. then that player is going to find out that, then that opens up like a weird situation in a team. So a lot of these reasons why it would be nice from a industry perspective, and also then for me or for you, Sponge, if we knew how much some player is getting paid in a team, let's say if we know everyone's getting the same salary and this guy is obviously much worse, then you can use that as a tool of like discussing the team. Or maybe someone's getting paid more and he's not proving that in the server, then that is something we can talk about, right?
Jesus Christ.
So a lot of these things, and of course, if you know that someone's contract is running out, then that also plays into like discussions that we can have about roster moves. Like if I know, let's say, let's talk about Virtus Pro at the moment. Of course, they all signed like 3 months ago or something. But if they signed 2 months ago, then 2 years ago, I mean, then we could talk about, is Adren or Sanji going to be replaced? If we know that Adren's contract is running out in like a month, then it's obvious that they're going to just replace Adren, right? Or stuff like that. It opens a lot of discussion to be had.
So on the other side of the table here, sitting patiently, is representative from the CSPPA, Nathan NBK. Do you have anything that you'd like to say in rebuttal to this situation?
I think it's hard to go either or in terms of like either nothing or everything, because it would probably be too much of a changed straight off the bat. That would be my take, but I think a bit more openness would be important for the scene. I think in general, whether it is again a full-on public document or a document that is more behind the scenes held by the CSPPA, for example, and then if a big org wants to come in with money, you know, they can just go and like make sure that the players are getting what they deserve in terms of the whole industry, that there is no false shit contracts for the players and all of that. Like I will always defend, so me and the CSPPA will always defend the interest of the players, so we always look at that perspective, right? We don't really look at the perspective of the rest. We just want to make sure that we're heard in a healthy environment and that we get our share in what we should deserve as players. So
do you think there's anything bad about having like the date of the contract you're on, like when it's ending? Would that be, let's not talk about the salary right now. I think in sports, maybe salaries sometimes, most of the times for most sports, salaries are also a part of the public discussion and are publicly known. Maybe not all of the details, but you get like a general weekly wage for like Cristiano Ronaldo or whatever. But at least having the date of when you sign the contract and when it's ending, that is pretty much public information. Do you see that being public in CS? Can that be a bad thing for players in any way?
I personally don't think so. I personally think that it would be fine, and that it would help the scene be more mature as well, and like understand that this is like sort of a normal thing. If you want transfers, if you want more regulations and all of that, then some informations must be more public. And so what it helps having all those things hidden is the organizations holding the players or wanting a player, right? Like it helps all the orgs to put the price they want to lie to all the organizations, to do whatever they want, right? Because if you have no idea about it, then you can legally not do anything about it. So I think all of that being public would be fair. That's how I would see it. Like, this is my take. This is not the CSPPA take or OG's take or anyone's take. I just want to make clear that this is my take. But to me, I don't really see any problem, and I think it's a step towards the whole scene being more professional, at least to have the date of contract so that you know, and then have like, I don't know, like a separate network like that is not HLTV, because otherwise you're gonna have like 5 news a day of this player has resigned, this player has resigned, all that kind of shit, and then you have like a million news. But like have a separate place, or like like a separate, more specific place where they just talk about player transfer, if they're resigning, if a player is like expiring, a player's contract is expiring in 3 months or something. I think it's like very good information also for like persons in general to like speculate about, like, oh, that player is like out in 3 months of contract, will they sign him again, does he not want, does the organization not want him, and all that kind of stuff. So I think it would add something that is more into the norm, if you want, of like sports, in my opinion. And you know, orgs that have nothing to hide and players that have nothing to hide, well, you know, it won't hurt them, in my opinion. Like, I don't really hear like this just out of my brain. how bad it would be. Like salaries and all of that might be a bit different, but in terms of contract duration, at least we'll have a clear idea of how the scene is shaped and all that kind of stuff. I think it could be interesting.
So other than the idea, which I think all of us would agree would help with like roster transfers and stuff, would be like having more of a set window of time for when players' contracts start and end and all that kind of stuff. Striker, is there anything else that you'd like to see that would help out with any of the current problems that we're seeing in the Counter-Strike industry with the moving and shaking of teams and rosters?
Not particularly. It's just that with all of these changes that have been happening over the last few years, with the player break in the middle of the year anyway being, a little bit moved like this year compared to last year, because last year it ended in like at the end of July, and or it started at the end of July and then ended like at the end of August. This time it's like mid-July to mid-August and stuff like that. Obviously, Valve came into the space with those events that are potentially going to, meddle with not essentially the break as a whole, but obviously like some teams will have to come back to practice, during the break, which is something that we discussed last week. Or last time, I think. That's something that I feel like should get a little bit more clear going forward, just because it would allow teams to kind of set contracts for that time as well, like to end in the player break, so that they can look for new players potentially, because it's also one of the reasons why the player break was set up, to have like a somewhat of a window where teams can actually change players, because so far it's not as possible.
NBK can also like share some light on, like in football, let's say, we know when the transfer periods are. It's like summer, winter, whatever, and all of the contracts end in like one of those two windows, right?
Yep.
What is the situation now in CS? Like, is it still like super random? Like one guy's contract ends in April, one guy's ends in July, and from one side, I remember talking to someone saying like, if he was like a team owner, he would never sign everyone to end on like the same date, because that is how things like Renegades, like Evil Genius is buying the whole Renegades roster happens, because your contract runs out, they just pick up a whole team. From a team perspective, it makes sense to kind of keep you barred in, but from a player perspective, like it probably would be better if it was in a window, right? Yeah, the question was, is it still like random? Firstly.
So from what I've heard, the ecos, I know that for some teams it's still pretty random, like throughout the year. I think not for most of them, but I think for some, I've heard contracts for durations and all of that. I think it can still be a thing. However, I think for the most part now it's like end of the year. I think for almost everyone, I haven't heard too many contracts ending in June or July, before the break. Now, I think it's a very, very tough subject, and I think that that is going to help organizations. I think what helps the player, and I forgot to mention it, but when I was talking about contract duration, the salary being hidden, it can help the orgs, but it can also help the players a ton, because you can have players that will just go into to the orgs and have to re-sign the contract, and they're like, oh, I heard that this guy is being paid 100k a month, so now we're top 3 team in the world, I've been in the top 10, so I expect to have 75k because I know this is the best. So I'm like, yeah, more or less. So it can go both ways. I just wanted to add to the last thing. And now to have like specific transfer windows, I think the scene is getting more and more professional. There's not many cases of like, fuck it, I'm leaving the team, I'm out, I'm gonna go for my other team. So I think those cases are a bit more less apparent, like it doesn't happen too much. But to have specific transfer windows, I don't know if it's beneficial for Counter-Strike in the sense that our circuit is still fairly open, even though we have more leagues and the majors and all of that. And so first, it helps create really good storylines. Like, I got removed from Vitality, right? Aleksib got removed from ENCE, and like it was kind of out of nowhere, if you will. Well, what is the big thing? Well, now we teamed up, and then we're coming back to like get revenge on like Vitality, ENCE, and like we already had matchups against ENCE, for example. So I think for Counter-Strike, it is not the best way to go because of how our scene is structured. that would be my take. Now, if it would be the LCS, for example, with very specific season and stuff like that, then why not? But for our scene, I don't see it being the answer to that.
Yeah, the problem is like not everybody attends the same tournaments. You know, some teams start as we see this time, for example. Some teams like Fnatic start the year like basically at the end of February. You guys started the year maybe with qualifiers at the beginning of January, or Complexity did. You know, so obviously like needs will differ, but like hopefully at least at some point we will move to a place where more teams will have, you know, like standardized contracts and like more standardized seasons. Rather than what we have now, which is not entirely true.
All right, boys, we're going to close it down. DreamHack started. All right, it's over. We're done and dusted. Nathan, is there anything you want to say? Do you know you got any spiels? You have to do any PR stuff you got?
Fuck Twitch chat for winning. I'm still a bit upset about that.
I appreciate that. I respect that more than you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, no, nothing else really. Dreamoji, #Dreamoji.
How just a short question, like what is going on with the hand?
With the what?
With the hand.
Oh, with the hand? Oh, it's just mostly to just rest my wrist. Since I came back, I was on the PC, obviously a lot because I'm a nerd. And I don't know, my position was a bit fucked up, so I just rested, and then Monday back to practice. Like nothing bad, like nothing bad at all. It's just making sure that I'm rested for the season to come.
All right, just a temporary little rest for the wrist there. All right, guys. I'm going to be closing this one down. This is another episode of HLTV Confirmed. Thank you for tuning in. I want you to go watch the DreamHack tournament, which is kicking off right now. Well, you don't have to, but if you want to watch some Counter-Strike, that's the best place to do it. Katowice is starting in a couple of days' time. Anchor.fm/HLTV. I believe that's it. If you want to be watching or listening, in the car, audio options, Spotify, Apple, Google, all that shit's over there. Our next show, I think we're going to do once Katowice is over. Did we pick a day yet?
No, we should.
I don't remember.
Probably the 3rd or some shit. The 3rd or the 4th, something like that. So we'll be back then. And guys, I just want everybody out there, when you go on about your day, I know there's a lot of people and there's a lot of humans. I know you're on your phones and you're checking your Instagrams and you're scrolling your memes, and you're doing all that kind of bullshit. But here's the thing: when you're out there, just be a little bit more human. You know, if you see a woman with a pram struggling to get onto that tram, offer your help. She's probably going to say no because you look like a creepy cunt, but at least you tried. You know, you have certain things you have to be careful about, like offering to help people with bags on planes. People in 2020, they get the, you know, no, I can do it. But you know, if someone's in need, help them out and let those people in your life, you know, like for me, it's Rushley 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just let them know that they're important to you. And that's it. Let's close it down. We'll see you next time.
Beautiful.